Today we'll be making some stewed curry chicken legs. It's one of my favorite recipes, and I just kind of throw some ingredients together and my family seems to like it. I start out with chicken legs. You can use breasts, thighs, wings, whatever you have. I have some chicken legs. Then I also have some green onions and potatoes. I also use pico de gallo because it's tomatoes, yellow onions, jalapeno pepper, fresh cilantro. So instead of buying all the ingredients individually, I can just buy that. It's already diced up, dump it in, good to go. It provides a lot of flavor. And then you have several potatoes. I like a lot of potatoes, and some will kind of disintegrate after slow cooking. So if you want actual potato chunks left, you're gonna want to put in a little extra, but it will thicken up the sauce. And then I also use some chicken broth. First step is to wash the chicken. I like to wash my meat because you just never know where it's been. Rinse it off. And then I just rinse off all your meat. Place it in the pot. And as you see, my little boy has already finished his meal. And he's wearing it everywhere. And he's ready to be done. So I need to take a little break and go take care of him and see if I can entertain him with some toys. And now we gotta take a further break to mop the floor because this little man decided to dump everything. Ain't that right? I was only able to fit in 7 chicken legs into this pot. And if I really wanted to fit in more, I could just stack them on top. Just make sure I covered them with broth. It would have been fine. So I'm going to put some chicken broth on them. You could use water too. I just like to use chicken broth. Makes it more flavorful in the end. Not as much seasoning that I have to do. So we're going to put this on low. Low to start. And then we're going to just pour the chicken broth over it. Are you helping, DJ? I'd like to cover it up because I'm gonna add more, but I leave the tops open so I can season them, and the seasoning can sit on the chicken for a little bit. It'll all eventually get into the sauce anyways, and I'm gonna slow cook it so the flavors are gonna mix. But this is just what I do. Jeez, we got 2 little helpers. DJ. Hey there, DJ. Hey there, DJ. And now, while we are waiting for that to start simmering, we are going to go cut up our... Can we walk, DJ? Let's walk. Come on. Let's walk. We're going to go peel our potatoes and cut up our vegetables. Alright, let's go check on the chicken. Come on. This is what I have to do sometimes. Okay. And we're going to season the chicken to start out with. We have some salt. Okay. Put a good amount of salt over the chicken. Then I always put some black pepper. And we're going to taste this throughout so we can adjust the flavor as needed. I also use some seasoning salt. We're gonna just put it on top. Make sure it gets on top of the chicken legs that are exposed. We're gonna flip them after a little while anyways and re-season the other side. I have my son in my arms right now and it's difficult opening things one-handed. So we also put some onion powder. Put a generous amount. There's some in the pico de gallo anyways, but it adds plenty of flavor. I like it. The goal is also to kind of make a really good, nice, thick broth. So the seasoning isn't just for the chicken. I'm gonna put this over rice when it's all done. I can eat it plain as well, but I'm gonna put it over rice for my husband because that's what he likes, and I want the sauce to also be flavorful. This is my favorite spice. It's curry powder. Love curry powder. I love the smell of it. I never used to use it, but I do love the smell of it now that I've started using it, and I pretty much put it in everything. It really adds so much flavor. So, and this is my curry chicken, so I'm gonna use a lot of it, and it's gonna turn everything pretty much orange, and that's fine. Make sure everything is covered. And now I'm gonna cover this up. I'm gonna go cut up my veggies and I'm gonna let this simmer. And then right before I add the veggies, I'm gonna flip the chicken, season it again, and then add the veggies on top, and then probably add some more broth to it and let it then simmer for a while. If it ain't simmering, you can also turn up the heat until it does, and then I just turn it down until it's a nice low simmer. And I simmer it for sometimes 2-3 hours. It really doesn't matter. The longer, the more tender and more flavorful it is. Also, I cover it up so that it doesn't all dry out. Now we try a different approach of entertaining him while I try to peel some potatoes and chop some veggies. Hopefully this works. Rinse the potatoes after I finish peeling them. And we're going to put them over here, get ready to cut. Did you lose all your toys? And we're just going to throw them away again. Are you alright? Now check on your chicken. Okay, it's simmering nice. See, the chicken's already started to cook. So I'm just gonna finish dicing up the potatoes. Just let it go. It's not over boiling, it's not under boiling. I'm just gonna let it go. So I'm gonna cut these up into pretty decent sized chunks. This is a decent sized potato, and I'm just gonna cut it into fourths. So almost like roasting potato size. I don't know. See, it's still a pretty decent chunk, but it's gonna disintegrate the longer you cook it. And they're gonna be very flavorful too from all the spices. For the smaller ones, a lot of times I just cut them in half. It's up to you. Just do whatever. They don't gotta be the same size. When it's slow cooking, they're all gonna eventually get done. Because if you're like me and you start cooking and then you smell the food cooking and it's gonna take a couple hours to cook, I tend to start getting hungry and I'll start picking at the potatoes and start eating them out the pot. So eventually, by the time the meal is actually done, there's not as many potatoes as it started out with. Okay, we're gonna check our chicken. I'm just gonna flip it. Like just flip it. How are you? Hello there, DJ. And then we're just gonna re-season them the way that we did. Okay? And now we can just add all the veggies too after it. That's all done. So, again, we got salt and pepper. I'm gonna use some seasoning salt. This is one of his favorite toys, little mixing bowl that I have. What's wrong? Okay, now we're gonna do the seasoning salt. Then we're gonna use onion powder. Make sure the tops of the chickens get it. I'm gonna add garlic powder this time. I didn't at the beginning of the recipe, but that's the beauty of it. You can always change it up. I was gonna use fresh stuff, but I think I'm gonna have to hurry this up because of little man. And then again, my favorite seasoning that I can't put enough on there is curry powder. I know a lot of people probably don't tend to use this, but it's so good, and you'll see it seasons the chicken and the rice and the sauce and the potatoes so good. And now we pause to give him some snacks because the strategy to keep him entertained and happy while I cook is an ever-changing strategy, and what worked today might not work tomorrow, and what worked yesterday definitely might not work today. Okay, so both sides are seasoned, and I'm gonna take this pico de gallo here and I'm just gonna dump it in. Just like it is. I have used leftover salsas or salsa brands that I tried and hated for like dipping chips into, so I'll instead use them for something like this. I just find this simple. Don't have to go buy a bunch of veggies and herbs and sit there cutting them up. Dump them in. I'm also going to put in my potatoes now. Okay, so I'm gonna put some of the potatoes in. I'm gonna rearrange them. After this seasons a little bit more, I'm gonna stir everything back up anyways, and everything's gonna potatoes are gonna go into the sauce, and right now is a good time to add extra broth because some of it will boil out. So you just want to add some more, cover the veggies and the chicken a little bit better. And I'm just gonna use the whole thing. Okay, now I'm not gonna do anything else right now. Now is the time for it to just let it simmer back up, and then just leave it cooking 45 minutes, an hour. Check it if you want occasionally, but I'm not going to really do anything with it until I just let it simmer for about an hour. Then we stir it back up, cover it back up, and just let it cook on low. Okay, so since I have some green onions left over, instead of wasting them, I'm also going to chop them up and put them into my chicken. Okay, so everything's simmering. If you could smell this, it's so good. And I'm just going to put the little extra green onions I had in the fridge that were starting to go bad. I'm just going to put them in here. So now, if you want to check one of your chickens, You can just grab it and look at it. It's not getting burnt. It's nothing. It's just stewing. It's on low. So ain't nothing too crazy. I would just leave that be. A lot of this moisture is gonna start going away. I'm not gonna add any more. I'm just gonna let it slow cook for another hour. Then I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna taste the broth at that time. Double check the seasoning. Make sure that it tastes good. If something's lacking, I'm gonna add it then. But right now your job is done, and pretty much just wait. Okay, it's time to check our chicken again. Everything's cooking quite nice. The chicken is starting to brown a little bit on the bottom, so now is a good time to flip it. You don't want just one side necessarily cooking the whole time. And everything is gonna have a little orange tinge to it, but that's from the curry powder. It ain't nothing. We just flip everything. I'm not really too bothered. Some of the potatoes are gonna fall apart, and that's fine. See, I mean, it's already starting to. It's cooking. I mean, I'm gonna let it cook longer because I want the chicken to be super tender and real flavorful. I'm also gonna turn the heat down and just let it be. Now is a good time to taste it. So I'm gonna taste the broth just to see, you know, is it too salty? If it is, a good fix for that is to add some more potatoes. They will usually suck the salt out of soups and stuff. If you accidentally oversalt something, or you know, you can always add more salt or curry powder. I'm probably gonna add more curry powder. It's definitely salty enough, but it doesn't have that kick that I kind of want. So I'm gonna sprinkle some more curry powder in here. But it's definitely flavorful, and it really wasn't a whole lot of work. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more curry powder. Stir it up one more time. And you see, the only liquid I put in here was chicken broth. But now, I mean, look how it's cloudy. It's got little chunks of veggies, and it's got a lot of seasonings and flavors into it. I mean, it's really good. I could add more potatoes if I wanted to, which I might. It's gonna cook for long enough that they'll also still get cooked. But these ones that I put in first, they'll start falling apart, and they'll make it into the sauce, and they'll thicken up the sauce for me, so I don't really have to do much. You see the potatoes, they're already starting to fall apart. And I love a lot of potatoes in mine, so I'm gonna go ahead on and do that. The 2 potatoes I had left over from the beginning, I'm gonna cut them up, peel them, cut them up, and put them in there. I'm also gonna turn the heat down a little bit. So I just added in the other potatoes that I had. And as you see, even the chicken starts to fall apart, and then some will end up in the broth, and it's all good. But it sure is making my house smell delicious right now. And then we just cover it back up and just let it cook some more. I don't really have a specific hour or time that I cook this for. It's more or less whenever I can just resist the urge to just eat it. It usually lasts about an hour or two. But eventually it just smells too good and I've been thinking about it too long, and then everybody else gets hungry and then we end up cooking it. So I'm gonna cover this up. I'm gonna cover it up, and in the meantime we're gonna cook us some rice and let it start cooking. I just use this little rice cooker. It's a little old, but that's all right. I'm gonna make 2 cups. We're gonna make 2 cups, and then we're gonna go ahead and wash this rice. I also never used to wash rice, but my husband insisted on it. You know, his reasoning makes sense, so I do it now too. There's probably, who knows, arsenic, dust, factory dust, and I don't know, who knows, but we wash it. We just rinse it and drain it. I usually do it 3-4 times. See all that cloudy stuff? You don't really need all that. Let's do it one more time for good measure. Okay, and now we just fill it up to the appropriate line. And now we just plug it in, drop that down. It'll pop up when it thinks it's done. And that's when I put my butter in there and a little bit of salt. Because we already have a bunch of seasoning on the chicken and the broth we're going to put onto the rice, I don't need to really over season the rice. Just keep that in mind. Okay, it's been a little while now. We're going to want to check the chicken again. And stir it up. See, it's nice. The chicken's tender. I could probably, yeah, I can cut it with a spoon. See, the sauce is thickening up. So I can actually eat it now. I'm gonna leave it slow cooking while I prepare the rice. It's on low right now, so I'm just gonna let it be. Let it keep cooking. It's time to prepare the rice, and I like to put a little bit of butter. But I use real butter, not that vegetable oil stuff. And just a little bit of salt because there's a lot of seasoning in that chicken, so I don't want to overdo it. And we are almost...
Hey, say, little man, what you want? Are you hungry? You want to eat? Want to eat? Yeah.
And it's time to plate our food. So put a little bit for little man. A piece of chicken there. Get some of this broth and potatoes. And if you want extra flavor, make sure you take some of the juices and you put it on the rice. some for little man too. He just eats what I eat. So I just gotta make sure it cools off before he eats it. So we got some chicken. We got some chicken and potatoes. And some rice. And I'm sure mostly he'll just make a mess with it and it's fine. But that's not really the point. Alright. And we are ready to go.